2025. And today's special edition is on Women's Day. First of all, happy Women's Day to everyone across the world. And today we have an esteemed guest, Srilekha Palle, Dr. Srilekha Palle. She is from the Virginia area.
And she has achieved in her life. So with that said, I just wanted to introduce Srilekha, Dr. Srilekha Palle, and then we will move on. Welcome, Dr. Srilekha, to this show.
Thank you, Praveen. I am glad I'm here. Thanks to you for taking the time, and thanks to all the viewers for taking the time to listen. And happy International Women's Day to everyone.
Thank you. So before we start detailing about Dr. Srilekha, I just wanted to say today is Women's Day again. We wanted to empower women. On this International Women's Day, I just wanted to introduce Dr. Srilekha. She has a lot of accomplishment. First of all, I would say she is a health leader and she has 23 years of experience with healthcare, performance, education, and profitability in DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. She earned a Doctor of Physical Therapy from Boston University, and she has been a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, and where she writes policy papers and healthcare affordability, cost, and price transparency, advocating for better healthcare systems in the US. She has served as a Vice President of National Capital Healthcare Executives as a prestigious chapter of American College of Healthcare Executives, impacting 1,800 members in advancing healthcare management. She is recognized globally for her research work and speaking engagement. She has been presented at a prestigious platform like the World's Hospital Congress of the International Hospital Federation. She volunteers as the Rehabilitation Division Head in the Healthcare Council. She is also a strong community leader. She has held various roles in schools, PTAs, including serving as a vice president and president to ensure better educational opportunities for children. As an Asian American leader, she actively promotes parent rights, educational reforms, cultural representation in schools, aligning with Governor Youngkin's policies. She has contributed significantly to the religious freedom by serving on the National Committee of Religious Freedom, working alongside ambassadors Sam Brownback to protect religious liberty in America. She serves as a board member of American Hindu Coalition, promoting shared values and strengthening Indo-American relationship in US policy and governance. Passionate about philanthropy, she also raises funds for Vicente Ferrer Foundation USA. She represented the United States at the Global Entrepreneurs Summit 2018. She advocated for women entrepreneurs and promoted the theme of Women First, Prosperity for All. She is also a proud wife and mother to her two children, Mahat and Shirdi Palle, and attributes her success to her family continuous support. So today, Dr. Srilekha Palle is with us to inspire, motivate, and share her journey from being an immigrant to a nationally recognized healthcare leader, community advocate, and policy influencer. Excellent journey, Dr. Srilekha. So first of all, I would love, as a part of this entire episode is for Indo-Americans in NRIs, right? The motive behind this podcast is only to influence and motivate the Indo-Americans. So with that said, I wanted to first ask you a question. What is because being a mother, being a woman, balancing the life between your job, family, and also community, right? So how do you manage your time from your day-to-day routine? If you can tell in 30 seconds or 1 minute, it will be very inspiring for all of us.
Yeah. Praveen ji, one thing that I've learned in my life is all women are capable of multitasking. In fact, I think men too. I always say I have a boy and a girl, right? So I am not at all biased. I equally enjoy having a boy child as well as girl child. But a couple of things I've done in life is if I'm not passionate, I say that you can give me $1 billion. I will not do it. If I didn't want to do this, even if it is a paid podcasting, I will not cannot do it. So I think if women or males, for that matter, if you take up something that you're really passionate about, then I think priority is you will prioritize, right? And I think that just with regards to females, I see that we are actually very good at multitasking. That's one thing that I've noticed. Just with my own friend circle, with my own network, if we I'm very passionate about education because it took me a while. It was hardship for me to be educated. I come from a very small town, so it took me a while for me to be educated. So education is my passion. Religious freedom is my passion. Healthcare is my passion. So I only take up causes that I'm very passionate about. So if I have to burn my midnight oil to do the things that that I feel like is worth it, I will do what it takes to make it happen. So that's how I prioritize, multitask, and I think finally I want to say that busier people are the ones that will get the things done. It's like if you really want to get something done, give it to people that are busy. They'll figure out a way to get the things done. So
absolutely right. I think that's the confidence, when I see you, the confidence, the level of confidence, and the background what you have, right? For example, if you see you are a doctor of physical therapy, right? And you have moved from that to policy making and also religious freedom, involving, engaging in the community, and also aligning with the legislation, right? How did it happen? So still you practice as a doctor for physiotherapy?
Yeah, I actually manage healthcare clinics right now. So I work for a major healthcare system. I manage acute care. I have several physical therapists, nurses, cardiologists, pulmonologists. That's kind of my stakeholders. That's who I work with. And then I have outpatient clinic. I'm also in the process of trying to get a chiropractic clinic up and running for my own personal entrepreneurial journey and so on and so forth. But my passion has always been not only just operational and strategic in my workforce, but outside of my workforce because of things that I've seen in my clinical world. Like unaffordability, not having healthcare transparency. For example, I say you go to Target, you know how much your T-shirt is going to cost. So my philosophy has been, how do you go to emergency center and not know how much is the service going to cost you, right? So thank God most of Indian Americans are able to make good amount. So whether it is $800 or $8,000, at certain point we are able to pay the bills. What about Americans that don't make that great of a money? If you get $8,000 bills, then it takes you years to pay back the debt. So I think healthcare transparency is something that I believe in. So while I was treating clinically, it just kind of dawned on me that in this advanced nation, we call ourselves as the most advanced nation in the world, how do we not have that kind of transparency, right? So that's how I kind of slowly moved into policy world out of just passion to say, how do I better serve the people? Because I could keep doing clinical, but really that doesn't really solve the issues that we currently face in this country.
Excellent, Srilekha. I think you have touched a very important point on the transparency, price transparency, health policies, even the insurance. It's been a very tough to understand the concept. And after your journey in this policy writing and transparency, could you achieve what you wanted so far? Did you understand what is the cost, how the cost is involved in this health industry?
Yes and no. I'll tell you why, because it is such a complex subject, right? I'll give you one example of what made me really want to work on bills. The first time when I came to United States, I think I came to United States when I was 23 or 24. I was working in this major healthcare system. I won't go into the names because I don't want to put any organizations under risk, because all these are great healthcare systems when it comes to clinicals. But if you understand physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, in 1997, there was this Balanced Budget Act. You will be shocked to know that it was a typographical error that resulted in the budget. So they allocated certain, let's say $2,000 budget. They allocated for certain disciplines $2,000 budget, and they allocated $2,000 budget for another discipline, even though the amount was needed for one specific services more because a legislative aide did a mistake. We had to carry for 20 years that amount of money. Think about how many millions of patients suffered because of a typographical error that was done by legislative aid. And if you think about legislative aids, those are like 22-year-old kids that just came out of this bachelor's in policy making. I mean, no fault of the legislative aid, that is a human error, right? But because it was passed through this balanced budget in Congress, no matter how many times people went into Congress, because there was no proper advocacy for 20 years, all these rehabilitation professionals had to struggle. Millions of patients had to struggle because there was this typographical error. So when I kept hearing that, it just boggled my mind, saying that, oh my gosh. So it only got ratified after close to 20 years of continuous advocacy. So it is that complex when something wrong happens and when you don't have proper advocacy in Congress, correct? So I can't tell you that just because I wrote up a paper on healthcare transparency, or whether because there are 10 think tanks in Washington, D.C. area, the problem is solved. I think there is a better understanding of the problem. But Praveen, if you think about it, I always say that first you got to diagnose the problem. If you don't even understand the problem, how do you solve it, right? I think there is definitely better acknowledgement that price transparency is an issue, and we got to solve it to fix it. I think we are at least at that level. So now let's work on fixing it, is where we are. So hopefully in the next decade or so, we'll get to a point where we can start working on fixing it.
Excellent. I think just wanted on that point, I just wanted to confirm, was that you have unfolded that, or someone in the legislation has unfolded this 20 years back because of this error on the budget?
I think all of us were struggling with it, right? But I think we started vocalizing it more. It's like, I hope we get to that. It's like everywhere I went, I felt like I was one of those brown girls, right? You look around and you are like, how come there are not many of us trying to ask? So I still remember I went to Boers Island, it's in Virginia. You're in Northern Virginia, you don't feel like you're different because this is a very diverse community, and you get past a certain area. I went to, it's called as the Boers Island. This was again 15 years back, right? The demographics have changed. All of a sudden you look around, you feel alone because you don't feel. And I went there to attend one of these legislative meetings because I was curious to know why this is an issue. And you look around, all of a sudden you feel lonely because nobody looks like you, nobody talks like you. And I was there to advocate for this bill. So all I can tell you is that it is definitely not me alone. There are hundreds and thousands of therapists, but I can tell you that I'm somebody that is vocal and very persistent. So whichever legislator I talk to, I speak very passionately, and I also speak very vocally about the issue. So but then I will definitely not take the full credit for any policy or any bill, because there is a lot of advocacy by hundreds and thousands of people that goes behind the scenes in order for any bill to pass. It's like an army of us working towards it.
So Srilekha, with your knowledge on this healthcare policies, so how many policies you might have been influenced in the US government so far, and how it is possible, you not being in the legislation, how did you really make a difference? That would be really inspiring for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, Praveen, you'll be surprised to hear if you go on to Capitol Hill, you can advocate, and I think it's not just being on the Capitol Hill. There is what is called as Advocacy Day. There is legislative days, and then doing a lot of fundraising for the candidates, doing a lot of meet and greets. At every step of the way, you can advocate for the policies that you believe in, right? I mean, recently I I did a fundraising for the Lieutenant Governor at my own home. And I was advocating for a Hindu bill, actually. It has nothing to do with healthcare, but since the occasion is here, we are working on a swastika bill in Virginia legislature. There's a bill that went through House and the Senate. It is on governor's desk right now, where they're calling it as Nazi swastika, which is kind of a little scary for us, right? So we are advocating for that bill. So she was here at my home for a fundraiser, and I was doing a fundraising event. So I was advocating, saying that, hey, it's on governor's desk. It passed through House. It passed through Senate. The House and Senate was generous enough to amend the language, but our Hindu community is still not very happy with the language, because there is nothing as Nazi swastika, right? Swastika, there are some girls that have the name as swastika. Think about how they will be bullied in school and be called as Nazi swastika. So swastika is a very pious symbol for us. So I'm trying to make her understand. So at every occasion, you kind of use the opportunity to advocate for the things that you're passionate about. So you go to Capitol Hill, when you see the candidates, you advocate for it, you do meet and greet. So basically, I see that advocacy is a tireless pursuit, right? And that's why I always say, if you're not passionate, don't do it, because you'll get burnt out in like 2 years. So you, and also pick up the causes only that you're passionate about, because there are plenty of people that will do other work, right? So that's just how you should pursue them.
That's a very interesting point, Srilekha, because most of the people, so when you said that bill is passed, it's a state level or it's a federal level?
State level, Virginia state level. But Praveen, the reason I mentioned that is because we could set a precedent. Because if it happens in Virginia and we let it go and we are like, all right, we amended the bill, we are okay with the language, it's really not going to hurt. Then I would say Virginia becomes a model, and then it will get passed in Georgia. And then at certain point, you look around and 50% of the states have passed and they call it as Nazi swastika, and that becomes a norm. People like us, we knew this was happening and we didn't stop it, right? And that's my scary feeling. Granted, I've had some people come and say, but Srilekha, you helped amend the bill and it is looking okay. It's not as scary as the first bill. But I'm like, we should never compromise. When we have an opportunity, when we have a governor that's willing to listen, let's get it perfect, because there is nothing as Nazi swastika. Swastika is a very pure form of symbol for Hinduism, and it's been there for centuries. When we have an opportunity, do it right. If we don't have an opportunity and we don't know any better, then that's okay, because there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that we don't even know. But when we know things are not going right, then advocate for what is right, right? So this is one of those bills.
So Srilekha, I think this is a very, very good initiative what you have taken. If I hear to the layman, like all the viewers, to know more about this swastika, if I heard that a story in California, someone has put that on their cars, and then, the cops came and then they thought that is different on the symbol. So this is really, people are scared about this. So it's very great that you have done in Virginia. And typically, I think I would encourage all the other states also to, raise this issue and form it as a bill and then pass. So that's very interesting. Thank you so much for all the work. Now, Srilekha, I just wanted to also inspire the audience. How did you get connected and be an advisory for so many things in the government? What is the trigger point for you to join in these advisories?
So, Praveen, I say that again, as a clinician, you feel like you can keep doing the clinical work, but nothing will change until you're on the helm of things, right? If you're one of those smart person, you'll realize that very earlier on in your career, that until if you want to make change, you don't want to be part of the menu, right? You want to really be at the you can be at the pedestal all the time, but at least you want to be one of those key stakeholders or the decision maker. And I will tell you a couple of examples that have happened in my own career that made me really think. I had a patient, Dr. Chaco, and I don't think he would mind me mentioning because he actually had written a book and he mentioned my name in the book. This gentleman was a Kaiser insurance patient. The doctor had dismissed him, saying that the patient will never walk. He came to one of our rehab center, and for Kaiser would never approve of his. I'll make the long story short. And week after week, when I used to pass by, I used to talk to him. I knew he was super motivated. So every single week, I used to attend this, what is called as utilization review, and advocated and made sure he got his 100 days, right? And by 100th day, the patient started walking. He walked out of the facility, right? This is a long story short. And he wrote it in his book that if it wasn't for Dr. Palle, I would have never walked out of the facility. And this was a patient that walked in where the doctor totally dismissed him and said he's never going to walk. And Kaiser was like, but the doctor said the patient is never going to walk, right? It was the constant advocacy because he was so motivated that he wanted to walk out of the facility. And he really was working so hard in rehabilitation that made me believe that let me give him a chance. And once he plateaus, we'll dismiss him from the rehabilitation care. So you either need to have a rehabilitation professional or your physician or somebody aggressively advocating for you, or you need to have your insurances advocating, somebody advocating for you in order to progress in your therapy. And in order to do that, you have to be a decision maker. A clinician can only do so much. So once you get the thought process that you got to be a decision maker in order to make the change, you can't help it but kind of slowly move yourself from a clinician and move into those roles where you can actually make a difference, right? That doesn't mean that clinicians don't make a difference. I'm just saying that if you really want to make a difference, then you need to move into decision-making roles. And I think that's the key. Like how I always say people move into entrepreneurial roles. I think that's how most immigrants do because they feel like if they keep working, they'll keep working. So if you see most immigrants immediately move into entrepreneurial roles because they feel like, you know what, I work hard anyways, I may as well work hard for myself and give employment to others. So it's the same mentality.
Great, very great inspiring story there, Srilekha. So this gives everyone to think through. As you move in your profession, you also need to see how we can bring changes. That's the message definitely we take here. And let's talk more about the community service and advocacy. So you have been actively involved in community service, cultural events, and also the public services. Especially, I saw many social events on your LinkedIn, like you have hosted recently the fundraising for the at your house, the Lieutenant Governor has done. So what inspired you to serve the community?
Yeah, I think my kids, Praveen, I don't think I say this to everyone. I don't think anyone comes to United States and say, I'm here to serve the community, right? And neither I was that way too. I mean, I was 23, 24 when I got into United States. I immediately have changed. Typical mom lifestyle, right? You become a wife first, you have your arranged marriage, you come, you immediately have your child and stuff. But I think again, like anybody else earlier on, when my son started going to school, it didn't take me too long to realize that unless you advocate for your child in school and you're involved in school, the education is not the same quality, right? So once I started becoming active in school is when I realized that there are a lot of loopholes in education system, that unless I'm an involved parent, my son may not be able to take advantage of all the things that are going on. But but back home, I have to give a little background. My Peddanana, who is my dad's brother, was a medical doctor himself. So the boarding school I was going to, he was the medical director of that boarding school. So I always saw him doing community service. So community service was always in our blood. So that was really nothing new. So I grew up watching him not only serving us, but serving the community was just part and parcel of our lives. So that just was an inborn natural thing for us. So when I started actually going going to school and helping out my son, I saw the gap in education. And I'll give you a very good example. Again, I won't mention the schools because the schools are all very good by nature. As you know, Praveen, you can't blame the schools. Schools by nature are very good. Like my daughter's school, I was doing after school math tests, like STEM classes. I was doing Virginia Math League, CML, Continental Math League. I was conducting the test to all the kids. After a certain time, I realized that only Asian kids were coming to these tests, right? All these were great tests. And then I went to PTA and I asked them saying that, hey, I know that there are certain kids that are just not coming at all. And they were like, oh, our school has 30% sliding scale. These kids will never come to school. I said, that's not fair because that 30% actual kids, they are the ones that should benefit from this. I'm not worried about the kids that are coming because these are kids are not falling behind in academics, but these kids are falling behind in academics. I want to do something. And I said, but PTA has this excess budget. Can we offer these tests for free? And they were like, no, we need to use that budget for Spring Festival or movie night and so on and so forth. So I literally had to go to the PTA president and school principal and kind of get into this little of a convincing argument saying that is Spring Festival movie night important or getting this 30% into these tests is important? Because when we are trying to nurture kids' interest into STEM, yes, I'm glad all these Asian, Indian American kids are coming in, but those kids will thrive no matter what because there are motivated parents. But I actually want these kids to come, right? They are on this sliding scale. They are getting these meals in the school, so they can't afford. I said, if I have to donate some money, if you think movie night is so important, I'm happy to. Finally, they gave in. They allocated some budget and all of these kids started coming to the tasks, right? So that's how I started grabbing in kids that are not able to afford to kind of come into the test and take the test and then grew their interest into STEM programs and so on and so forth. So we did a lot of those activities. So that made me realize that unless you are involved in schools and school policies, you can not only make change in your school's education system, but then a lot of policies won't fit the kids. So, I mean, they started my community service, and then I was also part of Durga Temple. I mean, I always say community service is something you just get sucked in, right? You start doing one after another. You've done a lot in your own career and your own life. You kind of know how that goes.
Absolutely. See, one thing I'm very proud to hear from you, Dr. Srilekha, because most of the moms or parents, right, they always make a big issue out of it, but not go deep into that and understand, and you have made that change, right? You understanding that kids are not taking, and then you go into the PTA leadership and then making that change. I would love everyone to do the same thing because this is very important because rest of our life, we might be here, right? Being an Indo-Americans, we don't have a choice. Yeah. Most of the parents, our kids will not be adjusted now when you change the geolocation. You might think that we might go to India, but we all need to think that this is our land going forward. So amazing. So that was very, very inspiring. And with that said, you also touched a very interesting point about the kids. So what is the message for the NRI parents, right? Every one of us come from a different country and being here. What is the message when raising the child in this US to help them stay rooted in culture and succeed in their education? What's your message to the community?
I think, Praveen, one thing I tell the parents is I think our kids are super successful, and I will never brag and say just my kids, right? I think you go to every household kid is super successful in our communities. But I still think, having well-rounded kids is what I always focus on, even as a healthcare professional with all the mental health challenges that we have. I think we should definitely challenge our kids, never hold them back for whatsoever. There is a fine balance. The mental health is a real issue. So I will never say hold them back because you're so worried about their mental health and stuff. But on the same token, I don't think we should push them to a brink. I think we've kind of done a very good job of diversifying when kids are showing interest in different fields and so on and so forth. But I think just being involved in their schools and education and stuff. And I think after that episode of getting other kids involved, I started taking leadership roles. I was the vice president in my son's thing, and then I became the president because then that gave me a chance to actually make the changes. Again, sometimes being at the helm means you can make the changes, right? Otherwise, you can only do so much for your child. You can't do a global changes. But I think just being involved, the kids need to see us more often. They really need to see us selflessly sometimes serving because they think that I think they need to just see us more often. I think that would make a big difference, whether they like it or not at that point in their lives. But I think I really enjoy watching them grow, and I think kids really appreciate us being involved in their lives.
Excellent, Srilekha. Very, very insightful message for all the NRI parents as well. Definitely who are watching or will be watching, they will understand why do we need to be part of this policy making or changes, understand the system here and how we can utilize and make available for everyone. That's an interesting story because most of the being in this media, I also see a lot of things on the raising the children, right? So there is a lot of family and child services, how things react when we don't take the parenting very seriously. It's not the same what we do in India. It is always different. So knowing more on the policies from different angles makes us more be freedom in this country, right?
But Praveen, if I may also add, because you said that, it just made me think. I think in the beginning, I almost thought, because I thought I was much more of a young parent, I thought American education was the superior education, right? I didn't know any better. And I think the longer I've been in the United States, I think it's a great education, don't get me wrong. But my impression that it is the superior education is actually not accurate, right? First, I thought, oh gosh, memorization is so bad. But actually, it's not. It is okay for some of the key concepts to memorize. So Indian education was actually a good education. It is okay to be gung-ho about science and math, right? So all my old concepts that, oh my gosh, Indian education was so boring, American education is the best. And again, I still think American education is a good education, but on the same token, our education system was actually not bad. I think it's a fine balance. So for the parents, that I would say that all that West offers is not the best, all the East offers is not that. It's take the best from the West, but don't ignore the East too. Try to merge both of them, but don't ever just assume that all the things that is happening in schools right here is good. Trust me, I've seen things that I am appalled. So that's why I say be a room parent, be involved, go to their games, observe things, and question if you have to.
Absolutely. Very well said. So let's talk about the women empowerment and leadership, Srilekha. So you have achieved so much in a male-dominant industry, that is the health industry, right? So what is the advice do you give for the women who aspires to break barriers and lead?
Yeah. Praveen, if you think about it, healthcare management is kind of male dominated, but healthcare actually is not. If you look at either physicians or nurses, it's actually very much female dominated. But I think you're absolutely right from the perspective of management, right? If you enter into boardrooms, it's still very much male dominated. But if I may, I'll kind of get little distracted. Recently, I was on a delegation. I went to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Bahrain. with American Jewish Community Coalition, and we were about 12 of us. So we went to the top institutions, healthcare institution, and also financial institution, where we went to visit the Cleveland Hospital and so on and so forth. And I was shocked to see, very pleasantly surprised and shocked to see how many females were on the top of the line from executives, right? More than United States, believe it or not. In United States, if you see 3 executives out of 10, in UAE, in Middle East, there were like 5 out of 10 executives were females. So I think, I said the same thing. And extremely qualified, very well educated, could articulate. And again, I shouldn't have been shocked, but I was pleasantly surprised of how well they were doing. So I think in the entire world, women are totally thriving. And it just shows that the more women thrive, the economies will thrive. There is a very good reason why Middle East is starting to thrive so well in the past decade or two, because now they have such empowered women. Not only in politics, I met 2 women MPs that just knew politics, even global politics. They could speak articulately, not only about Middle East, they could speak about United States and Indian politics as well as any Indian politician could do. And I met a pilot who used to fly, who currently flies Sheikh too. So it's just women pilot. I was like so impressed. So the reason I bring that up is I think women are thriving everywhere. So I don't think the concept of like, are they still empowered is no longer existent. I think they're already empowered. Granted, that doesn't mean that it's happening everywhere. There is definitely that layer that is not happening, but there is a layer that's already out there. But I think in United States, I think in boardroom settings, you're 100% right. There is gender parity still exists, especially in United States, which is kind of strange, right? That should not happen. There is definitely gender parity, but I think boardrooms are starting to think about it much more in depth and starting to work on it. But at this point, there is, I think to answer your questions, what can females do? I think one thing that they have to do when they walk in is that they should first feel that they are in there because they should feel confident that they're there because they know what they're doing. I don't think they should have imposter syndrome. I think many women go through that imposter syndrome, that maybe I'm invited, but I'm not supposed to be here. I think the minute you have that feeling, you can perform. I gave an advice to one of my male friend, actually, very good friend of my male friend, when he was getting nervous. He was going to Bangkok. He was getting nervous about seminar. I said, Sridhar, the reason they invited you is because the audience don't know any better.
Exactly.
So if you're present that they don't know any better, you will be fine. Otherwise, they wouldn't invite you. They think you're the subject matter expert. So how could you go wrong? So there you go.
You're absolutely right, Srilekha. Because it's not only women, even male, right? Everyone will be not confident. But you rightly said that when you go into a conference, whatever you know, you should be very confident. The other people, everyone, don't assume that everyone knows everything. But definitely they're here. Here and where we might make some mistakes, but our confidence will drive the entire journey.
Yeah,
excellent. And culture, right? Let's talk about culture. You have done much work in culture. You have worked with the organizations like American Hindu Coalition. Why do you think that culture and religious representation in US is very important?
Yeah. Praveen, I feel like culture drives everything in this world. I'll rat out my mom. If my mom hears it, hopefully first thing she won't understand so much of it. My mom couldn't speak English very much growing up, right? She had PUC degree growing up. She always wanted to go to English medium school growing up. She comes from a very small town. She took pride that I could speak in English. She was very, she wanted me to speak, but I was one of those person that always went back to speaking in Telugu. I took pride in speaking, but she was like, no, my daughter can speak English. She used to tell people, because I always went back to speaking in Telugu, but she had to tell people that, no, my daughter knows how to speak in English, because she thought that will what will stand me out. But I was like, I was somebody that, because I believed in that even while growing up. Not only language, I think once you're grounded in your culture, no matter where you go, the confidence will come through. And I feel like if you lose culture, then everything is lost. It's like parents, right? You don't respect your parents, and who else will you respect? I feel like it's a God. It's like, I say this even in a joking manner. It's like, you have to believe in God, so you can at least blame him if nothing works out. I said, at least you should have God to blame, right? So at least for that, you need to start believing in God. So I think culture drives everything. That should be the foundation. And going back to American Hindu Coalition, actually, American Hindu Coalition is not a cultural organization. It's a purely political organization. The mission of American Hindu Coalition is to work on policies of American Hindus, such as immigration, strong borders, education, law enforcement, security. So whoever is in the administration, whether it was Biden administration or President Trump administration, we work with the administration personnel that is in the White House to advocate for the policies. So it's purely a political organization, but I have been part of a lot of cultural organizations, such as Telugu organizations, where we hold Diwali events and Ugadi events, Sankranti events, and so on and so forth. But again, going back to your point, culture drives everything. If you don't understand your culture, I think you'll get lost.
Excellent. And another tough question I would love to ask you. So culture definitely drives. So how much culture we are transmitting to our young generation? Do you think that we are doing a good job in transmitting that to the younger generation?
I think we are as good as. I think sometimes it saddens me that when I go to India, that in India, in Bharat, we don't. Sometimes I feel like the culture is getting lost. I think it is a very relative term, right? Who do you compare and say that we are doing a good job or a bad job? Do you compare with UK? Do you compare with Australia? But I think my parameter is comparing with Bharat, right? When I go to Bharat, sometimes I hope my Indian audience of yours are not going to yell or scream at you. But sometimes when I go to Bharat, I feel like sometimes the culture seems to be deteriorating at certain parts. Here, I feel like we make additional and extra effort to ensure that the culture is protected, the integrity is protected. So, but again, it's very hard to, where is the parameter? Who are we comparing? It's a very relative term. Culture is a very relative term, right? But I still think that people do people try harder to maintain the culture here. What I do pray, though, is that it continues from generation to generations. But I do take a pride when I see a Caribbean person, like I told you, the sheikh's pilot that I just met. Parents went to Caribbean islands 200 years back. But her name is still an Indian name. And the minute she saw me, she wanted to strike a conversation because she feels like she's my Indian sister. And she was asking about the roots of her. That I take pride in. So her parents instilled something in her that sparked her conversation to ask about her ancestors, right? I hope our kids, even after 200 years, will feel like they still have those roots, right? I think that would be the measure of our success. But I think at this point, I think we are doing our best. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. I think we should be proud of our culture and
Absolutely.
learn about our culture, definitely. So what you have served in many of the advisory boards in the government, right? So what is your message for the young generation? How they need to get connected into this right from the early stages to understand this, and whatever they are passionate, they need to get into the advisory board. So what is your message for them to, start the conversation or kickstart into any of the advisories?
Yeah, Praveen, I think that is the wonderful, wonderful question, right? I think I'm part of Virginia Asian Advisory Board at this point, but a lot of Chinese and Koreans and Japanese, not so much as in Japanese, but I know a lot of Chinese and Koreans are very proactive into getting into Asian Advisory Board. Before I came into this Asian Advisory Board, I got appointed by Governor Youngkin. It was pretty predominantly dominated by API, which is also okay. But the reason I bring that up is it's like I don't think we were as proactive in getting into the boats. I think we should not settle down for donating and taking a picture and just being happy with the picture, right? That's okay. You take a picture with President Trump or Clinton and stuff, but when you are making those donation, make some ask. It's like, hey, we have this swastika bill on your table. We have this a bill coming up. We have this Hindu phobia bill. Like I went to Ro Khanna's office. I was passing by for on Capitol Hill for some other bill, and Ro Khanna had a huge board on his door. He was in there. His door was closed, and it says no Islamophobia and no anti-Semitism. And I took a sticky note and I put in saying that, hey Ro, this is Srilekha, just passed by your office. You weren't in the office. Thank you for putting no Islamophobia, no anti-Semitism. I support this. How come you didn't put no Hindu phobia? There is Hindu phobia going on in your own constituency. Thank you so much. We respect you, Srilekha. So it's like making him aware that that's happening in your own. So you're supporting no Islamophobia, no anti-Semitism. I support too. But where is no Hindu phobia, right? So it's like those are the things. I think getting involved very earlier on and vocalizing. I mean, could I have been nice to him and taken a picture with him? Yeah, I could have been. But how is that really helping the community, right? It's like there was Delegate J.J. Singh, and he just got elected into Virginia Assembly. So I saw him the other day. The first question is, hey, it unanimously passed. You are our advocate. How did you pass this swastika bill? How could you? We donated for you. How could you? We had Congressman Suhas Subramaniam. I said, how could you be okay when meritocracy test got taken over? As an Asian American, meritocracy is at top of our list. So you're constantly having to ask. So I think my message would be that for younger generation or us, we should not take we shouldn't compromise by just taking pictures with them. We should still take, trust me, I love pictures too. You see, I posted it, but that's not, we should never stop there, is what I'm saying. We should advocate, we should question, we should compromise sometimes when necessary. We should negotiate, we should go to the table, we should be involved, we should be engaged, we should be at all levels of the government. If you go to Capitol Hill, you see a lot of Muslim Americans, which is good. We see a lot of Jewish kids, which is all great, but you don't see a lot of Hindu kids. I hate to divide and rule, but I think we should just be involved, is what my message is.
You are spot on, Srilekha. You are spot on.
Yeah.
By the way, I already had a conversation with Suhas too. He came on to my podcast too. So that's great to hear from him too. So you are very energetic and you pass by and learn quickly things and give them back your suggestion. That's very a good quality from you. So from coming to all of us Indo-Americans, do you think that any of them know about the bills, what bills they are passing, who has done what? I don't think so, Srilekha, because you are very much engaged in the advisory boards. You are aware of all these things. But now my question to you is, how do you need to engage the community to know about these bills? I was just thinking recently that you need to have a monthly meeting to give these all updates, or you need to prepare all these bills and at least 100 people or 50 people can hear about that. It might be a change. So you tell us how to get engaged in those
Yeah.
bills getting
No,
managed?
again, Praveen, your questions are actually excellent, right? I'm really enjoying because you're asking meaningful questions, right? And nobody would know, even I wouldn't know. I will tell you, that's why we have these think tanks, right? I always say nobody would know everything, but when there are think tanks like Kona is an organization that brought this swastika bill to my attention, HAF, right? When there are these think tanks, I say they are always dedicated to doing these things, then donate to those organizations. Or when they're doing events, get involved with those organizations. I always say we wouldn't, I mean, we can be everywhere. We won't know everything, right? But if I'm passionate about healthcare stuff, then I try to kind of I say we have time, talent, and treasure, right? So if I don't have the time, then I try to give my talent somewhere. If I don't have the talent for some of the things, then I try to give my treasure somewhere, right? So that's how we try to do. But what you don't want to do is don't want to give your time, you don't want to give your talent, you don't want to give your treasure. See, that is not okay to me. So when I don't have the time, like now I'm not part of my kids' schools as much, so I don't have the time to put in. I think that's what we need to do. So there are a lot of think tanks. HAF is a think tank, which is Hindu American Foundation. Kona is a think tank. So I strongly recommend saying that pick what you're passionate about and see whether you can give your time, talent, or treasure, and then let them do the work. All right. I think that's how you should kind of divide up. But if you're interested in healthcare, then think about what are those credible organizations and try to figure out whether you want to give your treasure or you want to spend your time or you want to give your talent there if you feel like you have the talent to do. But again, my message, let's not do any, it's not okay not to do not do anything is all I would say.
Excellent. Very well said. PTT.
Yeah,
Excellent.
there you go. Triple T
Very
is
well
what I
said.
say. Give something.
Absolutely. So how is the support from your family, especially your husband, because it looks like you're very, very active in all of this, and it takes time and energy for all of this. So
Yeah.
how do you manage, and what kind of support you have from the family?
No, I say you can do nothing if there is no family support, right? My husband, I could not have asked. And again, if you don't have family support, I said don't enter into it, because at the end of the day, same like culture, family is the foundation. It drives everything. And if there is no family support, Praveen, I believe you are also a Telugu person, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't even ask you. There is a proverb in Telugu, I hope I say it right, Intlo Gelchi, Racha Gelchi type lo.
Exactly.
I always believe strongly that don't ever go out and spend time if you haven't set foundation at your home, because nobody will question something goes wrong if things are not set right at home. I've always strongly believed that. I mean, my entrepreneurial journey, I put it on hold until my daughter goes to college, because at the end of the day, if my daughter doesn't succeed well, I mean, my entrepreneurial journey means nothing to me. So I think we all should pace, right? And I think for most part, Indian Americans prioritize family. I've never seen many families that are just letting their families go just to go out and do. I think we know how to pace ourselves, at least most of us know. Family, culture, I always say faith, family, freedom, all of these are core principles for us. And thanks to our good cultural roots that we came with, we are super grounded that way. It's like for tomorrow, I exactly know when my daughter needs to be picked up, when she needs to be dropped off. After that, I know you introduced me. I have an India philanthropy day tomorrow, so I'll be going there. But I made preparations for my daughter to be picked up. You know, you do your thing before you get out for that event.
Absolutely. I think great suggestions and inspiration from you, Srilekha, especially TTT, FFF. These are the two things definitely I learned from you today. And in the interest of time, we really thank you for all the message what you have given. Finally, I wanted to ask a message from you as we celebrate Women's Day today. What is your core message to the women who want to balance family, careers, and community service?
Yeah, I would I would say do what you're passionate at. Do not follow everyone else's path, and don't get overwhelmed because somebody is doing something, is what I say, because you don't walk in anyone else's shoe. And if you're not passionate, do not do it just because someone else is doing. That's one thing that I've learned in life. I said only follow the things that you're passionate, no matter how hard it is. A lot of people have said saying that, but Shri, why do you do it? It just doesn't get you. Why are you holding a fundraiser? She might not even win. I said, because I believe in her. I trust her. That's what people told about Governor Youngkin. I followed, when Governor Youngkin, I hosted and I supported him, worked for him for 6 months. He greatest governors right now. He put me on 2 boards. We have such great relationship. He's helping us, the community, right now. So it pays off, but you have to trust your heart, right? I always say, and even if it didn't work out, that's okay. I mean, sometimes everything doesn't work out the way you want. I think passion is all. Passion should drive you, not because she did it, he did it, or he asked you to, or she asked you to. I say, follow your passion and just put in the work. There are no shortcuts. I tell this to my children. I said, there are no shortcuts. Follow your passion, put in the work, and God is great. God will never,
Absolutely.
yeah. God is
Absolutely,
always good.
Srilekha. I agree with you. Passion, right?
Yeah.
Passion makes you everything. If you are passionate, you will never be tired.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Because I'm passionate in this, I never get tired. Even
Yeah.
I did a lot of work, but still I am very active.
There you
And
go.
the way the happiness what you get is when you have passion and when you involve into that and achieve something, you get happiness. Especially in these things, I get a lot of happiness when someone has any need. I am able to help with my connects. Right? End of
Absolutely.
the day, that is what my motto. Bringing people like you onto this show to inspire at least one person, my goal is achieved. It's not like about the viewership or so. I do this purely for the Indo-Americans. So
Yeah.
that's where passion, as you rightly said, if you have passion, you can do anything.
Yeah. And also, Praveen, when I saw your questions, they were so meaningful, right? They were in questions like, oh, tell me about yourself, tell me about that. So I saw the question, I said, very good. I like that. I mean, at least they're meaningful. I knew you read up what I did. So it's not like, okay, talk to me, tell me about women's empowerment. None of that. It just felt like this is going to be a good conversation. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Srilekha, the interview, what I wanted to do is the live questions, what you have done, right? If I were to do something like you, I should know someone did like that, right? If you tell your experience, it is easy for me to catch up and at least move on. So that is where I'm trying to do. Hopefully, people will get that. And I'm very, very thankful for your time, especially night, 9 p.m. in the evening. And, it is weekend and you have given us 1 hour to share all your insights. And I'm sure that it will be helpful, especially in the healthcare. People will be more interesting to know more about you. Hopefully, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, viewers. And if you have any questions for Srilekha, please feel free to connect her on LinkedIn or write an email so that I can also get connected you to her. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful good night